Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is Bex Reads, and today I'm here to share with you my weekly reads. I got my Clan Fraser shirt on because tonight is the Outlander live show over on Jenn's channel. Several of us will be discussing it, so I will link that down below, so if you didn't get to watch it and you're curious about people's thoughts on Outlander, you can find that. But I tried to look as Scottish as I could today. I also haven't washed my hair today, so she's got pigtails and a hat on. Anywho, let me share with you the 4 books that I managed to finish in this past week. It was an Emma Hamm week for me. I started reading her Otherworld series and I've just been binging my way through it. I was reading them as quick as I could because my Kindle Unlimited subscription ended on the 14th and I wanted to get them all read while I could while they were available to me. So I got 3 more read this week. I finished reading The Faceless Woman and The Raven's Ballad, which is the next duology in her Otherworld series. This is an adult Celtic-inspired fantasy romance series. This is about Ashlyn and Bran. They are 2 characters that we met in the first 2 books. Ashlyn is a changeling who is about to be burned for witchcraft when Bran, the Unseelie Prince, he ends up finding her and he's just like watching her. So in order to get him to be forced to save her, she puts a binding spell on him, so that way if she dies, he dies. Bless me. So once this happens, they end up having to journey through the Fey world to try and find a way to break this binding curse on them. In doing so, some secrets that Bran is keeping from her come to light, and it makes their curse even worse. And that leads into the second book, The Raven's Ballad. So I'm not going to tell you where it goes in the second book, but just know that this is a duology that follows the same couple. I really enjoyed this duology. It was another hit within this series for me. I really liked the changeling Unseelie relationship. I loved the forced proximity. I loved the journey trope. I love all the creatures that we see in these 2 books, from like Bran's Unseelie family and just how creepy they are, to even more unsettling creatures that we see into book 2. I really liked that this is a Swan Princess retelling because for the first book, it really didn't delve too far into that Swan Princess retelling until about the end of it. But book 2 is where you really see that Swan Princess retelling come into focus, and I really liked the way it was done. I find that I'm really enjoying Swan Princess retellings as a whole. I thought Bran and Ashlyn had really good chemistry. I liked their dynamic. Again, not super spicy. I would say about 1 smut scene per book, not too in-depth. So again, I will say if you are looking for a low-steam fantasy romance series, this is one you need to check out. I then finished reading Curse of the Troll, which is a companion in this Otherworld series. This is a standalone, so you don't have to worry about reading into a duology to see how this couple's story ends. However, I would suggest you read this after reading The Faceless Woman and The Raven's Ballad, because some little tidbits that are mentioned in this book come from that book. This is a East of the Sun, West of the Moon, or West of the Sun, East of the Moon. I'm not sure which order that fable goes in, but it's one of those retellings. And this is about Elva, who we met in the first set of duologies. She was once the bride to the Seelie king, who was Aemon's brother. So in this story, she is living in the human realms. She's trying to find herself and rediscover who she is as a person because of a lot of trauma that she faced in her relationship as being part of the Seelie court. And there she is sent on a mission that she's very reluctant to do, to go to the Ice Mountain to gather information about this cursed bear that lives there. This cursed bear is a dwarf who has been cursed by the Troll Queen to remain in this beast form because he refused to marry the Troll Queen's daughter. So his curse will remain until he finds a woman, a very specific woman who just so happens to be Elva, to stay with him for a year and a day without seeing his face. And if he can manage to do that, then his curse will be broken. They form a very tenuous and sweet relationship. She starts to realize that maybe not all men are as toxic as her ex-husband was, and she really starts to form a friendship with Donnacha? I don't know how to say his name. Here it is. I just called him Dawn. But her curiosity gets the better of her, and things happen that force her to go on this journey to try and find him and save him from marrying the troll princess. So I didn't really love this story within the series. It was fine. I didn't feel the strongest chemistry between Elva and Dawn. I'm also just not a big fan of the east of the sun, west of the moon fairy tale. I've read about 2 or 3 books that are retellings of it, and I haven't really enjoyed any of them. So I just don't think this is a folklore fable that appeals to me. I find that the curse is always just so like random. Like, why? And especially in this book, the Troll Queen doesn't just place this one single curse on Dawn. Once Elva shows up to the castle, she sort of morphs this curse to make it even more difficult. It does seem a very insta-love to me. We do see like months pass where we see Elva and Dawn's relationship sort of progress, but because we don't actually see it in action, we're just told it, I didn't get the sense that it was a drawn out thing. This is the shortest book that I've read in this series so far, and it just felt really quick, and I didn't get that sense of a longing love. Like, why would she go and try to save him? Like, sure, he was nice to her, but I guess love, who the hell knows. But anyway, there were a few things I liked about this one. I really liked Elva's journey to find herself and learning to love herself again. I liked that Dawn was there for her and he didn't push her to do anything she wasn't ready to do. I liked the forced proximity of this story, and I liked that this was a sweet, no spice romance. There's absolutely not a single smut scene in this story whatsoever. But it is my least favorite that I've read of this series so far. I am currently reading the final book that I need to read in this series. I'm kind of cheating on my Kindle Unlimited. I've discovered that as long as I don't turn my Wi-Fi on, Amazon can't take it away from me just yet. So it's the final book that I'm using Kindle Unlimited for, and I'm holding out not turning my Wi-Fi on until I'm finished with this book. Now, the last book that I finished this week was not an Emma Hamm book. It was a reread for me that I listened to on Everand, and I listened to Last Dragon Standing by G.A. Aiken. This is the 4th book in her Dragonkin series, which is an adult fantasy romance with dragon shifters. I love this series. It's one that I am slowly rereading whenever I'm just in the mood to listen to the audiobooks, because I think they are really well narrated and I just find them incredibly funny and fun to listen to. And in this, we are following Kita, who is seen as the spoiled princess amongst the dragon royalty. Her father absolutely dotes on her, and her mother just cannot stand her. You can tell that Kita is not her mother's favorite daughter. But she uses her beauty and her ditziness and her shallowness to sway people into telling her things, because she is actually a spy for her mother to keep on task of who's trying to take down her mother and all that. Her mother sent her out to gather information about her aunt, who was seen as a traitor. And Kita has been keeping the location of her aunt a secret because she really doesn't feel like her aunt is really causing any trouble. She hasn't done anything wrong. But once her mother finds out, she insists that Kita go and gather her aunt and bring her back for a hearing or whatnot. But when she goes to track down her aunt is nowhere to be found. So she ends up getting the help of Ragnar, who is a barbarian warlord who has been training her younger brother to try and track down her aunt and figure out who took her. Meanwhile, there are so many other plots going on within this royal family. Her sister-in-law is refusing to go into war because she's afraid somebody is trying to attack her children. Her other sister-in-law had a baby a couple years ago and never told her daughter, who was training in war. And her brothers are just being their snarky, arrogant selves. This isn't a very deep fantasy romance series. It's pretty much fun and hilarious. That is what you should go into expecting from this series if you're at all interested in it. Don't expect a lot of like politics and action or world building or anything like that. No, this is just a hilarious family dynamics with dragons in a fantastical world. and I loved it. However, this is my least favorite of the series so far. My rating from the first time I read it, like 12 plus years ago, still stands. I like the family dynamics of the story. I love the audiobook narration. It is so good. I can't remember the narrator's name, but she does a fantastic job of giving each of the characters their own voice. And it's a good thing she does that, because this is a book that is written in which within one chapter, you could get like 7 different perspectives. And they don't really tell you, okay, we're in this perspective now, this perspective. It just flows in and out within the different characters within this family. So if the narrator didn't do a good job of changing her voice for every character, it might get a little confusing. But I know by now their voices and stuff like that and their personalities, so it's really easy for me to keep up with it. I just didn't feel the strongest chemistry between Kida and Ragnar. I also just didn't connect with them at all. I think it's because I like so many of the other characters, and so anytime I get their perspective, I'm much more interested in them as opposed to Kida and Ragnar themselves. So those were the 4 books that I managed to finish this week. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these or what your thoughts are on them. But if you don't want to comment that, but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you leave me a swan emoji? And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, happy reading. Bye.